And good afternoon. Welcome to Cool Springs. Today is Wednesday, October the 8th, 2025, and this is our series, God Conversations. And our God Conversation object for today are tea bags. I've got a box here of an herbal tea that was recommended to me by a friend and co-worker out at the casualty office because this particular product is supposed to help people with issues like swelling in the legs, and I have some medical conditions that this should be helpful for me, along with some medical things that I'm doing. But I decided, you know what, I can use the tea bag as the object lesson, because it's not just kids that enjoy learning things by props and toys. Adults sometimes can learn from it too. How do tea bags work? You take the tea bag and you brew it in hot water, and the longer you let the tea bag sit in the hot water, the longer you let it steep, the stronger the tea is. And so when you're making tea, either at your house or you're going to a restaurant where they've made tea, you want to make sure that it's not too weak, it's not too strong, but that it's steeped just right. And so it occurred to me that the tea bag would be a good object lesson for us to think about how important it is for us to be steeped in God's Word. When I take the tea bag, I like my tea to be a little bit stronger than most. So when I brew tea just as a single cup for me, I'm going to let it sit there and steep and soak in longer than I would if I'm making a pot of tea for the whole family, because not everybody likes it as strong as I do. But we need to be grounded in God's Word, in part because life is full of its ups and downs. If nothing else, today's date reminds me a lot of the ups and downs. I shared this in some of the other podcasts we did a few minutes ago, and we'll mention it again in one that we're about to do after this one, that today's date, October the 8th, is a significant date in a lot of ways. We're going to be doing, for example, in just a few minutes, an Israel update that we've been regularly doing as situation demanded it for now 2 years, because yesterday was the 2-year anniversary of the terrorist attack by Hamas from Gaza into Israel, butchering over 1,200 people, taking hostages, killing people in captivity. That war is still going on 2 years later, though there are political efforts underway right now to bring the war to an end, to bring the hostages, living and deceased, back into Israel so that their loved ones can at least have closure, and that the surviving hostages who have been through 2 years of living hell can start to rebuild their lives and recover from the intense trauma that they've been under. And so a lot of things are coming up in our feeds today about not only the news that's happening today, but what was happening 2 years ago. And there are also other memories showing up of, like last year when we had a couple of hurricanes that came back to back through the southeastern region of the United States, doing severe damage to property, causing people's lives to be just totally disrupted. And so some of the memories are showing up, but also there are updates being done by some of the helping agencies on, hey, this is what things were like in the Carolinas just a year ago, and here's how we have started to improve, started to rebuild the towns and the roads and people's homes and lives, and here's what's left to be done. And so there are those kinds of memories. And because of what's going on currently, where we have the federal government shutdown, this area in particular has a lot of people who are either connected to the military or they may be civilians or contractors working at the military post nearby who suddenly are either facing the economic hardship of having been laid off with no guarantee of when or if they'll go back to work, and others are working because they're required to, like our soldiers, without being paid. And they've got to figure out how to take care of their families. And so part of what we've been talking about is how people have a responsibility just as adults to try to prepare for a rainy day, for the times when sudden tragedy, whether it's weather related or whether it's related to a job situation or some sort of natural disaster, whatever the sudden upheaval is, do you have something in reserve that you can count on to kind of be a safety net to help get you through a rough patch? And then how do you respond to difficult situations? And so the best way you can be prepared emotionally and spiritually to get through the rough times that everybody is going to experience in life sooner or later. Nobody lives the Pollyanna lifestyle of everything is always good and it's always sunshine and rainbows and good things. No, life rears up and bites you. You might have diseases, or you may lose somebody that you love, or you may have an economic hardship, or you may experience a natural disaster, and you need to have the kind of resilience that helps you overcome all those hard curveballs that life can throw at you. And so our tea bag here is a good example of you spend time in God's Word, you pray, you worship, and when trouble times comes, you know exactly where to go to get the strength that you need to get you through those storms of life. You know where you can turn to with your fellow believers to receive support when you need it, and also when you're doing well, to be there to be the support that other people need. One of the more famous stories out of the Old Testament was when the children of Israel were wandering in the wilderness and they ran across an enemy army that was trying to prevent them from passing through. And Joshua is on the battlefield leading the troops in battle. But Moses is standing up on a hillside and he's trying to encourage the folks who are in the battle to see the battle through. And so he was holding up his staff. I'll take the pen here and hold it up. He's holding up his staff so that the people down below on the battlefield can see, hey, I'm not down there on the battlefield with you, but I'm lifting you up before God. I'm praying for you. I'm encouraging you to be strong and courageous and do what you need to do. And Moses' arms were up there, and he's holding up that staff, that symbol of authority that they had seen him use to demonstrate to Pharaoh, God says, let my people go. When the staff turned into the serpents, when the staff touched the waters and the Nile River turned to blood, when Moses stretched out the staff across the Red Sea and the waters parted to allow them to drive through, they were encouraged by seeing Moses standing up there, holding up that staff, because it was symbolically reminding them God's with you even in the worst battle. But the problem was Moses was getting tired. And the tireder he got, the more he tried to hold his arms up, the worse his muscles ached. And naturally, he started to lower his arms. And when he did, the tide of battle turned against his troops down there on the battlefield. He's got to try to hold it up, but he gets tired again. And his brother Aaron and his brother-in-law, Miriam's husband, Hur, realized what was going on. They saw that anytime Moses' arms were up, that the people were able to keep fighting through the worst of the situation. But that when he started to lower his arms, the tide of battle turned against him. Well, Aaron's 3 years older than Moses, so he's too old to be on the battlefield. And Hur is Miriam's husband, and she's 12 years older than Moses, so he's too old to be on the battlefield. But it's not like they were sidelined. They came up with something they could do. Moses is there trying to hold that staff up, and Aaron comes and stands on one side and just lifts his arms so that part of the weight is now on Aaron. And Hur's on the other side, and he's holding up Moses' arms. Sometimes we go through spiritual and emotional battles, and we need other people to help hold us up in the storm. And so that's when your Christian brothers and sisters come into play. You have to be willing to share with them. I'm struggling with this. I'm worried about this. I'm not sure what to do in this situation. To let other people give you wise, godly counsel, or to at least agree with you in prayer. And the other thing you need to do is to rely on God's Word. God's Word, the Bible, is our version of Moses' staff being held up when we don't know what to do, when we don't know what the answer is, when we're going through the battlefields and the storms of life. We turn to God's Word because God's Word has the answers that we need. And so we need to be as steeped in God's Word as we take our tea bags and brew them to provide nourishment for our needs. Thanks for watching.